very responsible for the film we just watched. And my friend, retired Corvette racer, 5-time Le Mans winner, 5-time Sebring, and 5-time Petit Le Mans winner, as well as a multiple champion, Oliver Gavin. Well, firstly, everyone, well done. That was just a wonderful film to watch and great to see your participation. Let's get started. So, Taj, Corvette to you is such a way of life. How does it feel now after all this time? Because I know it is a real progression to get the car to market. What's it like to finally lift the curtain and show everybody?
Well, it's so exciting for us because we've been working on this actually for about 6 years. And when we introduced the Stingray, we were super excited about that, but in the back of our mind, we knew what was coming. The Z06 is coming. And so we couldn't say anything throughout the whole development. So for us, we have to be silent, 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 and all of a sudden it's a burst of energy. Being able to share everything at once is just so exhilarating for us, almost as exhilarating as the car itself.
So I get that from like the engineering and the corporate side, you know, that evolution, but you've actually driven it. And you and I watching, we never have. And Andrew, that was your job. And there were so many moments in the film that I was like, how did they do that? But my favorite is sort of that convergence of the camera flying in, was it a drone, a helicopter, meeting the Z06 on the road. It made me feel, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be looking at this and then I want to be in the car.
Yeah, thank you. No, we actually used FPV drone. So we actually flew it over the water and into the road and kind of lined up with the rear of the car, and it took quite a few tries to get the timing correct, which was tough because it was raining that day. And we were just very thankful to have that drone in the sky, fly it, and then as soon as it landed, it started pouring rain. So it was meant to be. It was Hollywood.
Meant to be.
It was
perfect. Now, Justin, as someone so involved with the engines, I know that even as a driver, we all get asked, what's the horsepower, what's the horsepower? What is the horsepower? I mean, the horsepower, and how did you achieve it?
What is the horsepower? It's about the power, right? At the end of the day, that's what's fueling this. Yes. So it was just last Thursday that we finished doing our testing per the SAE procedure to get everything lined up, correlated with the vehicle data, all that additional cal work at the end to make sure we left nothing on the table, is where we got the engine up to a rated 670 horsepower. Right, and to put that in perspective, right, the current highest output naturally aspirated V8 is 620 something, right? So we're taking that crown by a hefty margin.
And when you think about it, that is almost exactly double the first ever Z06. Show how incredible time and technology is. Well, Amelia, I know you love horsepower, and I know you've held some of the records for the highest horsepower Corvette ever built. But what was it like for you when you actually got to ride it? We saw in the video, you just that sort of the horsepower kicking you back in the seat. I mean, you were genuinely excited.
It was very surprising for a production model vehicle. I have familiar myself with the aftermarket space. My Corvette is about 1,200 horsepower to the tire. And it's hard to get excited with stock vehicles, but when I was in the passenger seat of the Z06, it was such an experience that it's hard to put into words.
And for you kept on waiting, I'm sure, at around 6,000, 6.5 to shift.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're like, oh, something's going wrong.
I was expecting it to shift at 65, but then it wasn't. And there wasn't a drop off of horsepower either. I'm just like, you can see me getting thrown in the seat in a high RPM. Like, it just had so much torque and it just kept going.
Fantastic. Well, the enthusiasm definitely came across. But it's the same really for you, Ollie. What was it with you that resonated about the new Z06?
So when I got in the car for the very first time at the Nürburgring facility that the GM have, and I got in, put it in track mode, just drove it down the street, it just had all of those feelings of the race car. So, you know, to me, it is that amazing machine that not only can just be a daily driver and you can drive it to the racetrack, but then when you switch that engine mode, the car just comes alive. And all of a sudden you're in a race car. It's amazing.
So that distinction between road and track is really less than ever before.
The gap between the road car and the race car is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So now here we have the 8th generation mid-engine Z06, and it's just got all of that race car feel to me. All the lights are on, and it's just fantastic to be experiencing that.
I imagine that this is part of the excitement for you too, though, when you hear like Amelia and Ollie, even with all his experience and all her horsepower, talk about the cars. I mean, Dustin, that engine, creating it, and as you say, just getting the final horsepower numbers, but it still must be very gratifying to know that someone like Amelia and Ollie just go, oh, wow, this is the real deal.
No, it's extremely rewarding, just for myself and the extended team of working on it, right? The LT6, it's hard to put into words the emotion you're trying to communicate or give somebody, and Amelia, your reaction sums it up, right? It's not something you can verbalize. It's an emotional experience. It both gets you, as you said, mentally when you see the tag zing past 6,600. And the LT6 wants to do that with great authority, right? It flies past 6,000, 7,000 up to the red line. And then, so there's the mental side of it, of just getting used to the engine going that high. Then there's the exhilaration of the sound.
You were saying earlier on about that initial shift when you got it in first gear and you stand on the gas, you've got to be really on it to get it into second gear so you don't get into the rev limiter there. But that's how quickly it accelerates, and it just revs up so fast. It's just pulling all the way through to 8,600.
Yeah, I was just going to speak to that revving as high as it does is one thing, but how quickly it revs is another. Because it's not like it's a slow progression from 6,600 to 8,600. It goes fast. It revs quickly. But I mean, that's a testament to everything you guys have done with the flat plane crank.
Yeah, the torque peak is right around where you normally shift, 6,300 RPM. So that's where it really starts to pull hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just feel everybody's enthusiasm, and even you guys have been living with it, you've been just experiencing it. But Andrew, how difficult is it to capture people's reactions? Because there really is only one first time.
I mean, Amelia's reaction was one of my favorites of the film for sure, because we really kept her away and out of the car's line of sight. The car was covered. We wanted to keep it as genuine as possible.
Now, as you said, your enthusiasm for Corvette has been there for years, but what was it? What drew you to the cars?
How I found my passion for cars actually started with an LS small block. And from there I've done a lot of different builds. I've done a lot of different motors in said builds, and I've also swapped a lot of LS's in those builds. And I think at the time when the C8 was first announced, the Stingray, I was looking for what my next project was going to be, and I wanted something that was going to challenge me. And just seeing what everything was going for in the market, what you get in return, I didn't feel that there was a lot of options. And I decided that I was going to take the step into more of the supercar world. And ironically, after I made that decision, a week later, you guys had announced the C8 Stingray. And I thought, it's unbeatable. For everything else in the market, not only the price, but the power, the capabilities the car has, I just saw it as the perfect challenge.
Tad is looking, saying, please don't touch my car. That's what's happening right now.
Please don't put turbos on it.
I was taking an attack onto her comment. She's one of the first people who realized that the basic chassis and platform, the C8, can handle a lot more power.
Oh, yeah.
Well, only a follow-up question, because arguably the toughest crowd to please will be in Europe with the Z06. So how do you think it's going to be received there?
So the reception of the Stingray has been fantastic, and I think that the Z06 is only going to build on that. It's been remarkable when you see how the UK has accepted the car, but also throughout Europe. The buzz is there, the orders are pouring in. In fact, we can't almost keep up with that demand for the Stingray, but now with the Z06 coming on, that's just really going to build on that ground that we've laid. And the performance numbers from the Z06, everybody's going to be absolutely so excited to see the car out on the road. I think it's going to be just so much fun to have.
Taj, the driver experience, I mean, you have someone like him who's a bit of a ringer, right? So, his driving experience is somewhat differently distorted. But what was your goal for the driver experience when they got in the car? Because it isn't one size fits all, is it?
No, in fact, even though the numbers are phenomenal, it's not really a numbers car. We're all talking about the sensory perception of what it's like to be in the car, to drive the car, and making that performance accessible. It's not just a pinnacle, super fast lap, but how do you get there? How does it feel as you do it?
And I think this is also a thing where we've learned from the racing program, over all the years, all the generations, but now we're seeing it really transferred over into this Z06 and the performance of this car.
I mean, you can definitely feel the excitement, Andrew, right? Whether it's from the people that built it, the people that drive it, the people that are going to mess with it.
She promises not to.
She promises not to.
Not my words.
You can feel this build-up of anticipation, excitement. There's something else that was wonderful, I thought, was the mix, the sound mix, the way your audio guys did that, combining the sound of the engine and the running of the car with the music.
I'm glad you caught that. Something that was early on in the development stages for the film was that we were going to take audio sound of the car and blend it with the music. So if you listen closely, maybe on the second watch, you'll actually notice that in times we kind of blend the audio notes that we captured with the soundtrack.
Especially on that edit with the wheel.
That too, yeah, for sure. And it's all about spatial audio and throwing it to different places to really, but the exhaust note was such a huge talking point for the car and the story that, was important.
Well, obviously, capturing the audio is one thing, but you heard it first hand in the audio dyno booth. What was that?